I had a daughter that almost died when she was born. My wife almost died giving birth. And here I am checking out, getting high.
Everybody listening to this knows someone who's died from opiates, had an issue with opiates, and it's kind of this not talked about thing. And if you really, really want to be clean, there are options.
If you want to be clean, you can get clean.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Vibe with Humanity podcast. We are here with Nick, the owner of a company called Living Simply. He'll tell you a little bit about that today. It is CBD, CBG, CBN hemp products, and I love those. So he's been kind of helping me behind the scenes a little bit during this, building it up. So I finally asked him, hey, do you want to join? He's like, yeah, absolutely. So we're here today and really excited to hear a little bit more about Nick. I've been living around you for 3 years. I don't know anything about you other than your name, and you're cool and you light off bomb fireworks. So
But my 20s, it was a lot of, they were fun. A lot of finding yourself, a lot of mistakes. I, partied probably a little too hard. At that point, I wouldn't say I was abusing any one thing too much. I was just abusing myself too much,
yeah.
drinking way too much, actually. And I, I think I thought I knew who I was, but really looking back, I was lost, insecure. Um, I mean, I don't even know how you would. I don't know if you'd want to.
In your 20s?
Yeah, find yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know
Maybe
what I
that's
mean?
part of your 20s is just being lost. I
Yeah.
never thought about that. So what pulled you out of it? How did you, because you're a
I,
great dad and husband now, like,
that would be after I broke my neck, I think. Well, I mean, I was with Kim. We had Aspen. She was born 28 weeks, or 28 and a half, something like that. So she was in the NICU, really, really sick. We almost lost Kim, and
oh, wow.
that sent me on a spiral.
How old were you when that happened?
That was 2014, so 34.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I still went to work and stuff, but I I couldn't process it because I had to be strong for Kim and Aspen. My family being in Utah, so I'm here alone. Sure, I could call them and had support group that way, but I was alone, taking care of them, and that was a pretty dark time for me, I would say. Neck broken, so painkillers. I was taking extra painkillers. I found that, yeah, they took away the pain, but they made me numb. I didn't have to
Yeah.
feel I could
Yeah.
veg out and watch a football game without getting too much in thought, and that was tough. That was
Yeah.
really tough.
Did they get you?
Yeah, oh, yeah,
They
yeah.
got me too in my
Mhm.
20s, so I'm not.
So 20s, I stayed away from them as much as I could. Once in a while for a hangover, I'd
Damn it,
take
they got you in your 30s.
They got me
Son
in
of a
my
bee.
30s, bad, and, so I just kept taking them, and, never really processed what I went through with Kim and Aspen. And I think it was about 10 years ago, I woke up one morning. No, it was 8 years ago, I woke up and said, "I can't take them anymore. I'm done. I'm abusing them. I'm getting my prescription. I'm buying a prescription from an old guy, and
Yeah.
then halfway through the month, I'm buying another prescription from him that he's getting from his friend, and it was ugly. So I woke up and said, I'm done. So I went to live with my buddy Chris that I came out to visit. And that's when I decided to go to Detox. Went in, got out, got clean, and realized, started processing everything, talking to somebody,
The
and
stuff with
with
Aspen and
with
Kim.
Aspen, my childhood, everything. And I would say that's when I really started understanding who I was, who I wanted to be. That's when shit got real for me. Feelings came up, and
Yeah. There's no more numbing blanket of the.
right. That's when we were talking about ADHD. That's when that was diagnosed. I mean, it all came to a head.
So you were in your 30s as well when it got. I was way younger, but the last guest was in their 30s. God, I cannot imagine going through your whole child and adult life with ADHD unmedicated. That's just got to be rough.
And I don't know any other way.
That's what he said.
I don't
Yeah.
I don't think that it was rough. Like I said, I don't think I would my journey like where I'm at today, I think it would have been much different. Probably would have been more responsible. I probably would have done a lot of things different, but I probably wouldn't be here, you
Mm.
know?
So to revisit the
Yeah,
opiate stuff a little bit, because a
yeah,
lot of people are struggling with that,
sure,
obviously.
sure.
You got clean. The withdrawals, we know that's, 7 to 10 days of
Mhm,
shittiness, and then about 90 days of like depression and who am I and I'm a
mhm.
loser and I blah 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 blah. How long was it before like the cravings went away and you made peace with it and you're not thinking about it all the time? For me, it was 9 to 12 months. What worked for you?
Well, what worked for me
Weed
was
wasn't legal back then.
yeah, yeah, right, right. Uh, so some people do like NA, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't do it. It's great, it's amazing. It just didn't work for me. I tried that years before
Mm.
and stuff, but what happened is I went in with the willingness. I wanted to quit. I was done.
Huge
That was
factor
I
right
didn't
there.
have to. Nobody forced me. I chose to, and I think spirituality
Mm.
really really helped me because in that detox, I went in to take a bath. They gave me Suboxone, I think,
Yeah, that I
or
know it. Yep.
buprenorphine,
Hmm.
and they gave it to me too early. So when you do that, what it does is it puts you into withdrawal.
Perpetuated withdrawals.
Yeah,
Yep.
perpetuated withdrawal.
Yep. Same thing happened to me. Not
So
fun.
no, they
So you
put
paid the piper big time.
several times,
It's kind
and
of the only way. That's
I
you draw on that motivation to stay off the stuff.
I
It's been a
remember
long,
it.
yeah.
I remember, like, laying there and the way I felt and like, the
Awful.
sweating, the crying, the feeling like nothing
Yes.
and feeling, like, humiliated and,
It's horrible,
just
man.
letting
Mm.
everybody down
I'm
and
sorry.
all
It's
of that.
terrible.
But once you come out of it, you realize your family wants you healthy. I didn't let them down. I scared
Mm.
them. They were
Mm.
worried. I let myself down. So all of those feelings that I felt that I projected onto you thinking about me or my mom thinking or dad or wife,
Wow.
those aren't it. They
Did you
they
come to
love
that on
you.
your own, that
Yeah.
realization?
Yeah.
Was there a trigger for it with meditation or just quiet time? Or was
Meditation,
you think
like
so?
trying to meditate, my mind, I have a
Yeah,
hard
it's a
time getting
skill. It's like
quiet.
doing push-ups. Yeah.
Right. So, we went to the detox and those withdrawals that we were talking about were bad. And so I was like, I'm
Not
gonna
funny, but it's
no,
also
oh,
funny in a
so
way.
it's
It's
terrible.
terrible.
So terrible. I went to the bathtub and was taking a bath for the muscles spasming and all of that. You know how you do anything you can to
Yes.
get 30 seconds of relief is like worth 2 hours of effort. And
Mhm.
I was laying back in this bathtub at this detox house and I went I just remember laying back, I fell asleep, and I woke up on the floor. I woke up outside of the bathtub on the floor. I had
Seizure?
gone under. No,
Oh,
seizure. I
wow.
had gone under, and, I must have been I'm lucky I lived. I must have been coherent enough to get myself out or had some kind of spiritual intervention. And I remember laying on that floor, and it was cold, cold, but I felt this warmth and I felt this feeling of peace and serenity. And right then, I knew I was never going back.
So what kind of tools do you value to maintain that?
Hobbies, keeping busy. Um, for me, I like to take inventory a lot. I check in with myself a lot. Like when I respond to my daughter, I'll respond and be like, shit. And I'll go sit by myself for a minute and process, So I try to feel my feelings because I didn't feel them for so long. They're new, right? I've made a game out of it almost like I want to process, I want to feel it, I want to explore it, and I want to process it.
That's I think that's crucial. That's
You
awesome.
have to.
You have to. Otherwise, you're just gonna keep if it's not pills, it's gonna turn to alcohol. If it's not alcohol, it's gonna turn to gambling. It's not gambling, it's gonna turn to sex addiction. If it's not that,
Mhm.
it's gonna turn to food. It'll go to, a bunch of different areas. And eventually you have to sit down and sit in what doesn't feel good. And when you do that, you find, oh, it can dissolve.
Right.
Whoa. I didn't know that. I thought you just had to numb it out with something. Is that what you found as well?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I
Mm.
numbing everything, that whole processing and feeling, there's so much, shame.
Oh,
Shame.
yeah.
That's shame and
After you
Uh,
lose your cool, you mean?
like after yelling at my daughter and be like, "Oh, feeling terrible." Well, before I was sober, I would have used that and dwelled on that for days, like, and I would have been the victim. I would have,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know what I mean? It
Yes, I
would have
do know
been
what you
me.
mean.
I would have
Yes.
been all about me and the way I felt. And well, she shouldn't have been doing that, and I wouldn't have yelled at her.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Okay.
Had I been high, and now it's like you can for me, I can move on. If I do something I'm embarrassed about, as long as I look it in the eyes and I apologize if I need to apologize.
Everybody listening to this knows someone who's died from opiates, had an issue with opiates, and it's kind of this not talked about thing. And I mean, that fentanyl stuff, I never did that. It wasn't there when I was there, but it's cheap. It's like easy to
Mhm.
get. What the hell do you do? And how are you gonna, so I try to tell people, hey, there's very cheap options like
Mhm.
naltrexone. It's like $1 a day. You can go find
Right.
a doctor, assess you and stuff, and get into a program if you really want to be clean.
Right.
That's a pretty big factor.
That
Like you
that's the
talked about
biggest
it, a lot of
factor.
people think they do, but they want to be clean. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, wow.
Yeah, you know that saying, "Sick and tired of being sick and tired."
Yep.
I fucking hated it. I hated that fucking saying. I hated hearing it. I hated seeing it. I hated when they said it on movies, and then I realized I hated it because it was true.
Mm,
I hated it because, yeah, it's a cliche thing to say. Yeah, it's a AA or whatever thing, or NA, whatever it is. But you've got to be sick and tired of something. And I was sick and tired of feeling the way I was feeling. Not the high, because I liked that. I was sick and tired of the way I was treating my wife.
mhm.
I was
I
sick and
can
tired of the
relate.
way I was treating me. I was sick and tired of when I ran out or when I only had 5 pills left, trying
Oh,
I
that
was
desperate feeling where you're, like, almost begging and, like, oh gosh. Oh, I feel so
exactly,
bad for people that are still
and
struggling. It's horrible. There's
eh,
ways out.
there's so many ways
There
out.
is.
Um, one thing, I'll give it is rehab. For people, it's hard to get in if you don't have the money and you don't
Mhm,
have the insurance
mhm.
unless you're court ordered, or
Mm.
you know what I'm saying, things like that. And that's one thing. It's part of living simply, as I was telling you, not to plug here, but
No.
um,
Dude, anybody who can this is
uh,
very hard to deal with if.
well, we're helping reduce withdrawal symptoms by up to 60% for opiates.
I imagine it. I mean,
And
I took your little CBD gummies when I
yeah,
quit
the
chewing.
CBG.
CBG, okay,
Yep.
yeah, and I took it and I was like, "Whoa," and it was like 6 or 7 hours of relief from those symptoms. People that are struggling with that, if you really wanna get off, I mean, I recommend a detox, 30 days, 90-day inpatient, and then a year in a halfway house, and if you're not ready, that's gonna freak you out, and you're gonna
Mhm.
say, "Absolutely not," and that's
Right.
okay, try going to let NAAA, stuff like that if you
Right.
want. But there are ways out. And the difference, I think a huge difference between now and when we did it is there's ways to ease the symptoms of the withdrawals. And there's
Yeah.
ways like just the CBD stuff alone, CBG, that helps a lot.
Most people, when it's time, not all, but most, when it's time to get clean or you're ready to get clean, you're at rock bottom of something. Is it financially? Is it you can't get a family? For me, is my daughter. I had a daughter that was a fighter that almost died when she was born. My wife almost died giving birth.
Mm.
And here I am checking out, getting high, spending money, lots and lots of money on painkillers to get high. And I wasn't present. That was big.
And then after that, after you go through the withdrawals and that, I think that there's a ritual that you miss from the whole thing of either going and getting them or taking them or whatever, and that needs to be replaced with some sort of healthy activity. And you also need to be able to sit in that feeling that you don't want to, I will run to anything. I think those are two factors: learning to sit and be with yourself, and then finding healthy ways to replace the dopamine cravings and to
Yeah,
satisfy that. And for me at first it was food, and I put
food.
on a bunch of weight. I did not
Yeah,
care. I was
yeah,
so happy to be off those stupid things.
yeah. I found that I had to go deep for me. Like for me, I needed to get to the root. I needed to get right in my head because I still say it's a scary place for me to go alone, and
Mm.
I don't like to go in there alone too often. And therapy really helped me.
Oh,
Just
good.
going in, talking, and telling your deepest, darkest stuff that you never wanted out. And what I found out is the damage I did was more keeping my mom up at night, worrying if the phone rings, is it me,
And
maybe
yeah,
dead,
yeah.
or, that kind of stuff. And so letting them down, letting people down, I think, is it kept me high. Thinking I was letting people down, thinking I was a failure, that kept me high for a long time on the pills. But being ready, like realizing that maybe you're not, and it doesn't matter who you're letting down. That's on them, right? Taking care of you and getting yourself healthy, then worrying about the other people. That was big for me. Like I had to get clean and I had to worry about me, nobody
Mm,
else. I thought some of the shit that I had done while I was high or before, like in my 20s, or things that were deep and dark inside to
hmm.
me that were holding me back, and that I thought I was a terrible person. That shame.
Thought you were the only one that did it.
Thought, maybe I was the only one or nobody would like me if I come out. And then it comes out and they're like, "Oh, yeah, well, it's not that big of a deal. It's not as big usually,
Hmm.
as big of a deal as you make it in your own head."
That's important. Finding a
It's huge.
trusted source to tell things that you're holding on to that you think no one else has done. Someone
Mhm.
told me once, "Hey, if there's a name for it, someone else has done it." I'm
Right.
like, "Oh, I guess that makes sense."
Right. No, it's true.
Hmm.
And a companion is huge. Were you married when you went through it? So you were.
The tail end of it, yeah. So I was in my early 20s, and it was a pretty short little burst, a year or two, and
Mhm.
then when I was around 30, I drank a little bit again and like got into the opiates a little bit. And it was over a 2 year period. I'd get like, 6, 7 months off of them. And then, oops, 3 or 4 nights on. And then that window started shrinking. So now it's only 2 weeks off of them. And then that's when I
Right.
wigged out and went on that naltrexone medication. And my wife was with me at the time. And so she had, heard the stories about
Right.
what that time period was like for me. And she saw it and
Right.
she was like, "Hey, it's your daughter or it's this." And I was
Mhm.
like, "Okay, well, my daughter." So it was a lot of work and it was a lot of uncomfortable times, but holy crap, when you get on the other side of it and it's just not a thing you think about,
Right.
oh, it's just so much better.
It
You mentioned you take ADD med.
I have it, yeah, and I
Okay.
don't,
Sorry, can I ask about that?
yeah,
We
yeah,
can,
yeah,
okay,
yeah. No,
cool.
no, I have it, but I don't take it all the time.
Okay.
I take it, of course, the Adderall, 20
Mm-hmm.
milligrams,
Mm-hmm.
instant release.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing that seemed to work for me, but it's kind of a cross. They prescribed it for uh, depression as well, like, or mood, not, mood stabilization.
Yeah,
So
if it's funny how that works with
yeah,
ADHD. Oh,
that's
you give
why.
these people stimulants and it
Yeah,
levels them out? I just want anyone to know if they think they're possibly dealing with any of those symptoms, and you'll know because people
yeah,
around you
yeah.
will be telling you,
You'll
a
know.
lot of
You'll know.
if you really are struggling with ADHD, you're gonna know, and
You,
so is everyone around you. And so I
of
encourage you
course.
to not try to willpower your way out of it. Get some
No,
help, talk to people.
you can't. I mean, you might be able to do something, find exercises or something you can do to help it, but yeah, yeah, you've got to do something.
So stuff's very stable for you now
Yeah,
and
it's
looking
stable.
good.
It was great. It took a while though. Like when I came out and I was clean, I didn't know what to do because my head, I was tired. I felt bad. I couldn't think. I was foggy. I was happy. I was sad. I mean, I was all over the place, and I couldn't sleep. They'd give me Seroquel, I think is what they gave me as
The
a ser.
Seroquel shuffle?
Yeah, the Seroquel for, to sleep, and I did that for about 2 months, and I couldn't, it was too heavy. And I'd wake up with a hangover,
Oh,
and,
yeah, it's just a zombie,
I mean,
you
it
know?
was just bad, and so I went to another, doctor and just said, "Hey, this is how I'm feeling," and they're like, "Let's check out this ADHD. Do you have depression?" It's like, not that I know of. I mean, I have anxiety, sure, I get sad, but I don't know if I have depression, is what I told her. And it's been a good few years, I've been a good 10 years, I guess, really.
Well, man, I know you got to go
Yeah.
jet to get the girls. This
Yeah.
was awesome. Thanks
Yeah.
for being
Thank
so
you.
real. That's
Anytime.
what impacts people the most, is for people to see people be themselves and be authentic and speak real life experiences that, especially the opiate stuff, we all know someone that's going through that, or we've been through that ourselves. It's
Yeah.
crappy. I mean, it
Terrible.
happened to me because I hurt my ankle and they gave me like 150 stupid Vicodin. And I'm
Right.
like, wow, I could have probably done just Tylenol. But
Yep.
anyhow,
Yeah.
I appreciate
Wow.
you coming on.
Yeah. Anytime. Thank you for having me.
Good stuff.
Yeah. It's great.